What is going on, Misfits? Welcome back to another edition of Logician Tim Learns with me, your host, Logician Tim. Yes, that's right. This is the show where you get to watch me go from a total gaming newbie to a little more informed gaming newbie. How about that? What is going on, guys? Hope y'all had a great weekend. I surely did. And I'm glad to be back going through some more of this Cyberpunk Red Jumpstart Kit. I gotta say, like, my first impressions of some of the graphic design stuff just flipped through the book. I was like, I don't know, man. You know, it looks too old school for me. But then the more I've read about it, just the more I've come to love it. And so really digging it. Really digging it. And so we've been going through the mechanics and the combat in this Cyberpunk Red Jumpstart Kit. And we've touched on a little bit on the world in these streams. But I wanted to give you just a little bit more. The world is just so well thought out and described. I just thought it'd be really cool to dedicate a whole stream to kind of describing they have a whole chapter, or a bunch of chapters actually, but one of the chapters is called Everyday Things. And I just wanted to kind of describe that to you, or just go through that chapter with you so that you can get some more details about what life is like in the city called Night City. And so that's what we're going to do tonight. Let's bust open this book real quick. Here's the chapter called Everyday Things. And again, these might kind of flop a little bit with the pages because it's kind of hard to keep it open. So we'll just have to do that. Oops, this chat's being weird over here. Let me see if I can restart it. What's up, Scott Hill? Good to see you, my dude. Daniel Zayas, good to see you. Jacob, Brian, good to see you guys. Thanks for joining. Yeah, bunch of people in Misfits of Tabletop Facebook group watching right now. If you haven't joined Misfits of Tabletop, the link is in the description. Just click it. You just have to, it's a closed group, so you can say pretty much whatever you want. Just us will hear it. Your family and friends don't see anything that you write in there, so it's kind of cool. We just share like cool stuff with each other. RPG stuff, game stuff, cool pictures, just whatever we find cool. So yeah, join that. We approve you. You're right there. All right. The artwork here is not going to do it justice of this camera, but it's absolutely amazing. Every single piece in this book is absolutely fantastic. Fantastic. Just thought-provoking stuff. I really dig it. All right, let's dive right into this kind of the day in the life, or what the everyday things that you're going to run into in Night City. And the first thing they say that you need to learn about Night City is the cops. All right. Most of the cops are now called lawmen. Okay. Lawmen in the time of the Red, they say, are organized in a very similar fashion to how they were in the 20th century. There's like divisions of homicide division. You have your vice division, burglary, traffic, and those type of things. Each of these little small divisions are only made up of like 5 people. So you're not talking about a lot of cops. In addition to these divisions, there's also what they call the Maximum Force Tactical Division, also known as MaxTac, and a lot of people call it the Psycho Squad. It sounds badass. Their job is to deal with the cybernetic criminals, and they are like armed to the teeth with A4s, miniguns, assault weapons, missile launchers. Don't mess with them. They're the bad dudes. They can bring down the pain if you wind up against those guys. So what's up, Kaz? Good to see you, my dude. My fellow Bartlett guy. Yeah, man, good to see you. Lives right here close to me. All right, so in addition to these city cops that are patrolling the streets, corporate cops are deputized to patrol the corporate facilities. And in some areas where like it's like a corporate area where you have like a lot of buildings close together that are all corporate offices. Well, like these entire portions of downtown can effectively be, corporate cop territory, where they're just the only cops around. And these corporate cops are usually better geared than the city cops, and they have like better armor and weapons at their disposal. They can just bring out the bad really quickly. And the book tells us that they're also a lot more vicious, sadistic, and likely to shoot first, knowing that the corporation is probably going to cover up the incident anyway. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're doing that. What is up, Joe Franklin and Angela? If you're watching, good to see you. Good to see you. Cyber psychosis is still a thing in the Red. Yes, it is. Scott Hill, that's a great question. It is still a thing. I think it's it went into it a little bit. I'm trying to think of it. That was last week. I think it was where people just can't understand the technology very much, and it has this like mental condition that goes on. And I couldn't tell if they were talking about like if you get too many implants, if that's when you get cyber psychosis, or if that's just like if you're surrounded by too much technology if you get cyber psychosis. Maybe if you know, Scott, because I know you've read the Cyberpunk 2020 books, which I have not. Maybe it's described a little bit more there. So, yeah, thanks, Kaz. Appreciate that, man. So we talked about the corporate cops. All right. Now, out on the open highways, they have kind of like their own type of lawmen as well. And the book compares them to like Wyatt Earp in the Old West, saying that they ride fast and they shoot fast. All right. So they're going to pull the trigger really quickly on you. They say they usually wander places where like no official police offices are set up and there's no corporations around. So yeah, there's a lot of police and lawmen of all sorts around and in Night City, and so just kind of keep that all in mind. The book gives us a little bit of insight into the types of laws that these lawmen enforce and kind of the consequences of breaking those laws. Because again, you're playing a cyberpunk, so you're probably going to come into contact with the law in some form or fashion. So it's good to know who they are, what they are, and what they can do to you. So let's talk about that just a little bit. Scott Hill says, in Cyberpunk 2020, it was from implants and cyberware primarily, and that's how you would get this cyber psychosis. Okay, that might still be the case here. I just can't remember. Too many days have passed my brain, and I forgot already. That's like the bad part about going through like so many RPGs. They kind of cross over, and I forget like what was what. So I have to look up stuff constantly to remind myself. So. All right, so some of the type of laws that these lawmen enforce. Now, back in 1999, the U.S. government, and again, this is the fictional 1999. In 1999, the U.S. government established what's called the Uniform Civilian Justice Code, and that replaced most of the laws and regulations in the United States. Now, this new code was basically like the guideline for all criminal procedure in the United States. They say up to the 2040s and in Night City as well. And so they give us some of these important stances that are inside of this Uniform Civilian Justice Code. This is kind of like their own set of laws that they have here in Night City. What's up, Misty? Good to see you. Kaz says, you going to check out the Stargate RPG that's coming up here soon? If I can get my hands on it, I definitely will, Kaz. I definitely will. I'll be throwing that one on my list for sure. All right, so one of the laws they have is called, they talk about murder versus self-defense. Where's that fine line, right? Well, they describe self-defense as, and I'm going to quote this, any instance in which the assailant can show just cause that their life or the life of another party was threatened in circumstances where a duly appointed officer of the law could not be summoned, or where it was impossible to restrain the injured party by any other means. Okay, so it sounds like self-defense could be a claim for just about anything as long as no one kind of testifies against your claim, right? If nobody saw you do it, or if you have all your friends that know it's self-defense, what are they going to say? I guess they could get on a camera or something like that. But as we found out the other day, if you play a Netrunner, you can adjust those cameras pretty easily in there, take control of them, right? So keep all this stuff in mind when you're role-playing here. Now, what's their stances on drugs? Well, they tell us that narcotics are completely illegal in the United States, but bioengineered plant diseases that they made in the 1990s, the DEA actually made them, wiped out 96% of all the coca and opium plants on the planet. So it's kind of a moot point. Now, the law does not cover what they call designer drugs, such as endorphins and some of the synthetic narcotics, which are defined as medicinal, right? And they say technically Night City is not part of the United States, so do whatever you want, smoke up. That's what it says. Now, if you do end up getting caught, it's kind of good to know what kind of consequences you're going to be facing. Now, there are no plea bargains anymore. Pretty much they're non-existent, so you can't plead for a lesser sentence. And almost no one gets probation from anything, all right? So you're going to be doing some time usually if you get caught or getting severely punished a different way. They tell us that the death penalty is standard for all murder cases, and there's a 3-month appeal process. That's all you get, 3 months, where you can introduce new evidence to see if you can get free or not. 3 months. And if your case is not overturned, a .44 caliber slug at point blank will be the end of you. So yeah, that's your death penalty. That's kind of rough. Now they say most felonies have a mandatory prison time of 5 to 10 years. with the lesser crimes, they say usually being punished by either exile or personality adjustment. They don't say what that means, but personality adjustment sounds like it might be a little rough. It sounds like you're going to be dealt with pretty harshly if you get caught. So now that you know a little bit about what the cops and the laws are like in Night City, let's kind of talk a little bit about how life is lived. And they kind of give us some of these bullet points here, like how you stay in touch. Now, cell phones in the 2000s have been replaced by this new device called an agent. Okay, what makes these agents unique is what they call, and I've got to read this here, self-adaptive AI, SAAI. All right, and this is a program that learns how you do things by interacting with you, the owner. Okay, and it can do all sorts of things, everything like your normal cell phone can do, like taking pictures and video, making calls and doing text, looking up stuff online. It can have your calls being like on a flat screen or a 3D hologram. It can now the internet's not really the internet, they call it the data pool. And so it says that it can scan the data pool to locate a person, place, or thing, and it'll display the results on a map or GPS, something like that. Of course, it can keep your schedule for you, and it has its own personality. This was kind of funny. And it said that even some of them, it said some lonely souls stationed in a distant transport runs or orbital stations have been known to reprogram their agents to act as surrogate lovers as well as personal assistants. Okay, you go on with that. All right, so yeah, I guess you got hard up. You could do that. They can also monitor your supplies and kind of reorder things for you when you're low, almost like Alexa, right? It can also interact with your clothes and recommend when tailoring or replacement of your clothes is needed. I'm going to go over clothes a little bit more later on. So pretty cool stuff. Now, of course, agents come in basic, expensive, or luxury. Those three levels. Basically, depending on how much cash you have and how many bells and whistles that you want. So yeah, just know there's different levels to them. You might have an agent go, hey, I got something cool, and no, I got like the cheapo version, flip phone version, right? It's not the iPhone 10 version, right? Big difference. Now, besides your agent, you're likely going to be carrying some sort of weapon, right? And they have this in the book, and they call it "What are you packing?" Right? And the book says that there's all types of melee weapons, from knives and swords and clubs and tasers and all types of other lethal damage dealers that you can wield with your strength. And it's best to know that pretty much everyone in Night City is packing something. All right. Of course, there are definitely guns as well. They come in three classes: light, medium, and heavy. And that's kind of determined on what type of ammunition that they use. And they say guns are like very readily available for purchase. They're in pretty much all the stores and even in these types of vending machines. Yeah, that's right. So you can pretty much find a gun wherever you want for the most part. But either way, make sure you find yourself a good weapon of some sort to carry with you, because everybody else is. All right. Now they kind of talk about how do you get around in Night City. And I kind of chuckled at this one a little bit. I've been hearing stories about, us having flying cars. We're going to have flying cars in 10 years. I've been hearing that for like 30, 40 years now, and we still don't have flying cars. And I think Cyberpunk might be playing a little bit on that in this book. They said that there still has not been many new developments in transportation. They say that economic strife, along with civil unrest, have interrupted kind of research and development in transportation area for the most part. And they say, in fact, that it's not only not been increased, that transportation has been restricted in this time to like a patchwork of, they say, badly maintained roads and abandoned, the airports are abandoned, and the train system is pretty much overrun and plagued by gangs when they are running. Most of the time they're broke down. But that doesn't mean that there are no vehicles. There are some in here, and they kind of give us some details about them and the type of fuel that they have and armor points and all this kind of stuff. I'm not going to go into all that, but just know that there are like regular old cars, and they call them ground cars here, that are basically like a box on wheels. There are cyber cars, which you plug in, you kind of like using your like plug-in thing, like if you're a cyber like with your Cyberlink, you can plug into it and you can drive just by thinking about what you want to do, and it'll do like everything for you. They said that the cyber cars are kind of rare because they're super pricey, and it takes a cyber person to be able to drive it, and not everybody is. They have these cool things called cyber bikes, and they have like an optional Cyberlink that you can hook up to if you want. There's even these, what they call the McDonnell Douglas AV4. That just sounds badass, right? You have to know what it is. Let's say it's a tactical urban assault vehicle, and it has like it's like a light assault aircraft jet car thing with miniguns. And here's like kind of a picture of it, I think. Just think of like a SWAT truck that flies, and it has miniguns on it. Yeah, it's badass. So there's something pretty much for everyone, if you have the cash, right? Just like everything else, you got to have the cash. All right, let's talk about a little bit about what you wear. Now, they say if you're barely surviving in the time of the red, you're probably wearing rags. But if you have some cash, the clothing in Night City becomes a lot more interesting and fun to you, because they have this digital fabric that's integrated, that has integrated microcircuitry, and that's all into the weave of this cloth, this material, which allows this cloth to have some very advanced uses. They say some of these things you can, some of these micro circuitry in here that allow the material to act like as a video recorder, where others are made up of like monofibers, and they're able to vibrate on certain levels, which will emit sounds. So you can have like a jacket that plays music or whatever. Others have embedded pheromone sprayers that emits perfumes or other smells. Other clothes, they say, can regulate body temperature and have sensors which can kind of pick up the body's natural electrical fields to gain all types of information about the body, and that's sent to your agent, to like your cell phone thing. There's also heat-sensitive patches and badges, which allow the user to control different functions of the fabric. And you can even add like these different patches and badges to upgrade your clothes to add functionality to them. So like, I like this jacket, but it doesn't really do anything cool. We can add some of these badges and patches and stuff like that to make it cool. And they give us some of the things that high-end clothes can do. And I just love stuff like this because it makes your imagination go wild, and like the different ways that you can live in this world, and what are the different things you can do with the items, And so some of the things they said these high-end clothes can do, they say they know if they're ripped or dirty, and they can report it back to the agent. So, if you need to order a new jacket or need to know when to clean your suit or whatever, it'll tell you. They can also tighten or relax the weave to let in air or hold out air to help regulate body temperature. You can, like, with a push of a button, you can change them to become like waterproof or fireproof or, proof against acid or all that kind of stuff, which sounds awesome. You can change the color of your outfit, like right there in your agent. You can project 2D images on the cloth itself. That sounds like fun. They say you can change textures by using your agent, or there's even this thing called a chameleon matching program that helps you kind of blend in anywhere. Just think of those uses, guys. Like, just like pull your jacket over your head and you can project an image of it like the wall behind you or something. It's not exactly invisible, but if somebody's just kind of glancing by, they might not see you. Cool stuff like that. They said that you can plug in different devices into your clothing, and it says that it'll power those devices, like small devices. It says that it does so by incorporating, heat and solar sensitive threading right into the fabric. And then finally, the last thing that some of these high-end clothes can do is they can harden themselves into that what they call a fairly effective body armor. So you're like, I don't want to be wearing all this clunky armor around, look like a hockey player. Maybe I just want to wear my normal jacket. Well, bam, you hit the button and all of a sudden it's not clunky armor. It's your cool jacket that you have on, but it has hardened armor on it. And so that's going to help protect you some. So cool stuff. And what else am I going to tell you? Yeah, so on top of all this cool stuff, like with their clothes, this digital fabric stuff that they use to make it, it's also used to make what is called floppy hardware. I just thought it was a funny name. Things like video screens that can be worn like, bandanas around your head. That's a video screen. Musical keyboards and keypads that you can just kind of fold up and wad up and put in your pocket or into your jacket and carry those around with you. Just really, really cool stuff. And we might not be that far away from some of these things. You've already seen like the folding, screen phones and stuff like that. They look kind of janky right now, but I think that might be in our future. I like seeing some of the stuff that Pondsmith and the team have come up with, and like seeing how close are we to that. How feasible is that? Some of it's really, really cool. All right, so we talked about what you wear. What are you going to eat? Right, you got to eat. So the first type of food they talk about is kibble. Yeah, it doesn't sound too appetizing. They say this is like this standard baseline product that is mostly made out of kelp, plankton, and soy proteins. And it's very, very cheap, and that's what most people will get because a lot of people are poor, and it tastes like crap. All right. The next level up is called pre-pack, and this is kind of like your next step up from kibble, this pre-pack. And these are meals that can be, microwaved or otherwise heated up somehow, just kind of for a hot meal, but they are still largely like soy-based or grain-based and are considered pretty much fake food. They say that it tastes a little bit better than kibble, and sometimes, if you're lucky, you can get a piece of real meat or vegetable inside these pre-packs, and that just makes for a nice little treat. So pre-packs are they say are more common, like amongst the executive and the wealthy homes. They have the pre-packs for the most part, and then they talk about fresh food. All right, and they say fresh food is basically the standard for like your super wealthy. And, of course, it's a very, very rare luxury for the average person for the most part. Well, with one exception. There is a way to get fresh food, and it's called guerrilla gardening. I remember reading the guerrilla marketing books back in the day. Anybody else read that? Really good stuff. If you haven't read guerrilla marketing, go check that out. But yeah, this is called guerrilla gardening. And basically after the war, people were pretty much starving because they couldn't get any food anywhere. And many people started planting gardens in like abandoned street lots and parking lots, just busting up the concrete and getting down to the soil and planting stuff on rooftops or basically wherever they could. And they say it's pretty good food if you don't mind the radioactivity and kind of the traces of toxic waste. So kind of eat it at your own risk. So yeah, just cool stuff. Great stuff in here. I love just learning about some of these different things that you're going to run into while you're playing the game and kind of your day-to-day life. So pretty cool stuff. So that's about it for the basics to life in the Night City. And like I said, I really enjoy reading stuff like this. It just pulls me into that world, reading all the day-to-day stuff. So next time, I'm going to be covering the GM guide, where they give us some tips and tricks on how to run a game according to this Cyberpunk Red Jumpstart Kit. So I'm looking forward to that. All right, that's about it for me tonight. Do me a favor and go ahead and like the stream. Hit that subscribe button down there. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Share the stream. Many of you have been sharing the stream on your social media, on Reddit and on forums and on different Discords and stuff like that. And I really appreciate it. It helps out a lot. And I love seeing the new faces around here. Leave a comment. Got something to say? Leave it down in the comment section. I love getting notified of that. And I try to reply back to all of them. So I appreciate it. All right, just a reminder, I do have a new Patreon set up. The link is down there in the description. If you like this type of content, just consider donating via Patreon. Just even like a really small amount can add up to be a big difference. All right, that's it for me tonight. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.